So this is the webinar edition of the Wisconsin Facets Fall College Panel. We're very pleased to be joined by a number of state schools here this evening. We're going to get hopefully as much time in for your questions as we can during the time that we have together. First off, my name is Matthew Zelmer. I'm the Parent Services Coordinator and Transition Coordinator here at Facets. The broadcast is being recorded, so if you do need to leave the call or want to share the recording, you will be able to do so in about an hour after the webinar. You'll be receiving an email from GoToWebinar with a SurveyMonkey link in order for you to evaluate tonight. This helps us stay funded to do our workshops and prepare and present more workshops. So we appreciate you taking just a minute or two to do that. So we have on hand with us tonight, we have Waukesha County Technical College, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and last and certainly not least, University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. And we'll see if we can't get Marissa from Whitewater straightened out technically as we go along. But what we're wanting to do tonight is for those of you college panelists to just give a quick overview of what your school and any programs or supports you want to highlight can do for students with disabilities across the spectrum. And as questions come in, the audience can feel free to type them in the chat, and I will be monitoring. Otherwise, there's a hand raising feature in the control panel that you can use, and I'll do my best to watch for raised hands and try to unmute lines individually, but we do ask that you otherwise keep your lines muted to ensure the best audio quality. So I am going to pick on Melanie because I think she's actually done the most of my events previously. So if you would not mind introducing yourself and getting us started with WCTC.
Certainly. Hi, I'm Melanie Bivens. I'm a disability specialist at Waukesha County Technical College. So my primary role is I work with any students at WCTC who have a diagnosed disability to work with them to determine what accommodations might be needed to support them in their classes, and then work with them and their instructors to establish a plan for accommodations. So types of disabilities that I commonly work with would be students with autism, ADHD, some psychological disabilities like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, certainly students with any type of learning disability. But we also work with students who may have a temporary disability, whether that be a health situation or possibly pregnancy or some reason why a student might need to miss class or might need some extension, things like that. And so we work with students, So one important piece is that students need to contact our office. So students will self-disclose that they have some type of disability or medical condition for which they need accommodations, and they will reach out to us. And then from that point, what my office does is we will meet with the students. We'll go through an interactive process where we'll review documentation. We'll talk about any type of accommodations that they may have used previously, maybe in high school or at other colleges. And then we will look at their classes specifically. So accommodations may look very different from student to student, but they also may look very different from semester to semester, depending on the type and format of their classes. At WCTC, we have a lot of um, lab type classes, shop classes, really hands-on programs. So the accommodations that might be needed for a program like that might look very different from a student who's in, say, an accounting program. So we have over 100 programs. We ranging from short-term certificates that students might be able to earn in just one semester to associate degrees, which may take 2 years or more for a student. Um, so we have a great resource if you were interested in learning about the types of programs would be to look at our website, and I can provide that information. But there are some great videos and information pages for each program. We have programs in the health field, culinary, graphic design, automotive, welding. That's just a handful that I'm throwing out. Um, so that is a very brief um, introduction. Matthew, how much detail did you want me to go into now?
Well, I
About
mean,
W.
I think those are key points to hit on. We'll see
Mhm.
what questions emerge from our audience. I've got a couple of my own, so I can tee you guys up too as we go along. At WCTC, Melanie, do students come in and meet with someone in your office, and then as they get enrolled, do they have a particular point of key contact as they go along in their educational career there?
Yes, yeah. So students generally when they come in and work with my office, which by the way is called the Student Accessibility Office. Um, they would whoever they are assigned to, and it's usually based on high school or just happens to be whoever has the first availability on their schedule. Then typically students will work with that disability specialist throughout their time at WCTC. So currently there are 3 of us that work with students to develop accommodation plans. Um, so we're a pretty small office. We meet with students anywhere from minimally once a semester, but we may meet with some students we'll meet with more regularly for just case management to check in, see how things are going. But that's really up to the individual student. In terms of timing of when we would connect, generally we will not, usually we meet with students after they've already applied and are enrolled in classes. That would be the point where we'd be able to actually develop an accommodation plan. But we also will meet with students who are prospective students who maybe aren't kind of getting a feel of what types of services might be available. We'll also meet with students in high schools sometimes to talk to them about their plans and how accommodations may be different at the college level. So it really kind of depends on the student. We're happy to work with students to answer whatever questions we can earlier, but we would not meet to develop accommodation plan until they were accepted into a program and enrolled in class.
So you have quite the wide variety of programs on campus. What is your um, percentage of students who begin post-secondary education at WCTC and then go on to 4-year studies, perhaps?
Ooh, so without having some prep time,
Ballpark
I
figure.
have no idea what that
Yeah.
statistic is. What I can tell you is that we do have partnerships with colleges and universities where students can transfer in. say UWM, for instance, there might be a program where students can transfer in as a junior rather than just transferring those classes. So really, if that's something that you're thinking long term that you would like to go on to a 4-year university, then I would recommend meeting with the academic advisor to find out kind of what their options are for after they complete their associate degree program. We also have a partnership with some other technical colleges. For example, we have a radiography, is that the word, program with in conjunction with MATC. So students may not want to drive into the city if they live out in our area, so they may be able to take their gen ed classes with us, but then get into their program classes at MATC. So there are a lot of options for students. I would say if you are unsure about what type of program might be a good fit or what your next steps would be, the academic advisors are a really good resource for that. And they're assigned by program, so they're specific to program. We also have a career connections department that will work with students and the community really, but if for students who are unsure of what type of program might be a good fit or what direction they want to go in, um, they can meet with a career specialist to do a little exploration and determine like what might work for them. And oftentimes they'll learn about programs that they hadn't even considered. So, um, so if there's a student who is not sure, that would be a good place to start. Do it.
Okay, very good. So I think we're going to go on, and I'm going to stick with the Milwaukee area theme. Thank you, Melanie, for starting us out. I'm going to go to Sarah and UWM next.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thor at UW Milwaukee, and that now includes the Milwaukee campus in Milwaukee, and we have a campus in Waukesha and one in Washington County in West Bend. So kind of similar to what Melanie said, students need to self-disclose to us about a disability. We have kind of an online application students can fill out, or they can call our office and we can help direct them to that process. And they get assigned to one of the staff. We are called access specialists. Right now, there's 3 of us, and if the student's going to be at Waukesha or Washington County, they're automatically going to be assigned to me, and I also work with students on the Milwaukee campus. And so between our office, we're not specialized within like a disability type, but we'll work with any student. So work with a lot of students with autism, ADHD, psychological conditions, health conditions. Melanie mentioned like the temporary kind of disabilities as well. Right now, I've seen an increase in broken limbs. So that's interesting, but sometimes those students will reach out to our office as well because either it's impacting their ability to take notes or something, and professors will refer them to us. So we kind of cover a wide range of disability types in our office. Usually we recommend, if you're a brand new student, to try to reach out to us in the summer before you start so that first day of classes are set, you already have your accommodation plan and you're good to go. But of course, we kind of meet with students throughout the year. So there's students that are just reaching out to our office now. Either they didn't know about us or just was on the bottom of their list of things to do and now they're getting around to it. So we just try to recommend the sooner the better, just to set you up for as much success as possible. So UW Milwaukee typically is a 4-year bachelor degree program. And there's like 190 different majors a student could choose from Milwaukee, and I don't know how you would even kind of narrow down what you wanted, but our website has a lot of information on the different areas and schools and colleges that majors are listed in. At the Waukesha and Washington County, which have in the past been known as like the 2-year campuses of the UW system. Students can earn an associate degree through there through what we call the College of General Studies. So students are really taking a lot of the gen ed classes that can be applied to a lot of different majors, and those advisors at those campuses will kind of help them, you know, if they want to transfer into the Milwaukee campus and do a 4-year program, or even students will transfer off to other UW schools because it might have that other school might have a better program fit for the student, or they're in a different part of the state that the student wants to be in. So that can be a nice kind of transition for students as well. And some students are just looking for that 2-year general education associate degree. So some of them are good with that. I think that's kind of the general overview. Any questions at this point?
So we did have one from our audience kind of at the end of Melanie's time, so this may have been intended for her. I'm going to, let's see if we can't give it a shot here. Okay, so to our questioner, I have taken my mute off. It says you are self-muted. Let's see if we, if you can unmute yourself and we can hear your voice, and then you can ask it, but if not, I will read your question as typed in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, is this Paula?
Yes, this is Paula.
Okay, go ahead, Paula.
Well, so I am a parent of someone who is already at MATC, but what I'm trying to get a little more information on is there seems to be a very large cafeteria approach to getting into some of these schools. And if you're on the spectrum or you have some other attendant issues, that cafeteria approach is a little bit overwhelming, to put it succinctly. And so is there such a thing as a single point of contact, somebody almost like a student mentor or something in the works that would help the new students kind of find their way through, whether it's a TRIO program or disability services, or even meeting with a program counselor for their specific studies? Because when you look at all of those separate kind of spots, that's a lot to connect for somebody, especially if you're expecting them to be semi-independent. So I'm gonna leave it there.
Sure. This is Melanie, WCTC. So I can't speak to MATC. At WCTC, it is important that students connect with some specific departments because they specialize in that, with that, and are now more knowledgeable about, you know, like a program advisor is going to be the program expert. I can provide some general information, but I don't go into depth with that because those programs, sometimes there are changes that, and really the academic advisor is going to be the most up-to-date person. Same with financial aid, for example. I won't touch financial aid. It's very, there's a lot of rules and regulations and they change. And so we want those experts to answer those questions. However, we do often, when students connect with us, if a student is maybe needs some more support connecting with these different departments, we're certainly happy to help students do that. We also have individuals on staff called academic navigators. So they're usually assigned to students by program, depending on the program, or there are some students that may qualify in just certain populations of students, but though their primary role is to be that point person to connect the student with various resources. So there are a couple of different options for that. one thing though I think that's important to note is that we can connect students with various departments or various supports, but really from there, the student, if they choose not to follow up or to seek those supports, that's really up to the student. So, for example, academic supports, we have many resources for students who need academic supports, and I often will physically walk students to the area and introduce them to the teachers. But then if the student doesn't follow up at that point and doesn't attend the support sessions, then we typically don't then follow up with the student to make sure they go. Now, we do meet with students for case management, but it's really individualized and really depends on the student's needs, but it's also student driven. So the student needs to want to and follow through with meeting with us as well. I hope that answered your question. If not, please let me know. I'll also say quick, sorry, just that we don't have, obviously my office students will need to have a documented disability in order to work with our office, but we don't have any programs that are specialized for students with disabilities. I just wanted to make that distinction too.
Right. So this is where I'm going to interject again, because it's almost, and I'll just share with you that, when you're transitioning from high school, which is a program that literally, honestly, it's like being spoon fed. And then you are without a net almost. So you've gone from being smothered to, not knowing what port in the storm. And it's great when, and I'll share again with you based on my daughter's circumstances, I will say that it is great to introduce them, but if you don't get them into a mode, it doesn't necessarily stick. So I guess I'm wondering if any of the programs that are represented here have something that would be similar to or give a better transition. There has to be kind of like that transition from somebody is telling you what to do every moment, everywhere, to, boy, if you don't learn how to pick up the phone, you're going to be sitting on the sidewalk. Yeah. So I'll close off at that point, but say it just is such a large gap, and it seems like it's very easy to get lost in between those two places.
Well, I did notice that in your second comment in the chat box, Paula, you had mentioned the Whitewater Life program. And Marissa, I know you are not that, but I think this could be a good segue to something like it if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, so I was just going to add, we do at Whitewater have a summer transition program. So what that is students, it's a program of opportunity. And so students live on campus. This year we held it virtually and it actually went pretty well. So they take 3 credit courses. So they take 6 courses all together. And I believe one of the course is they learn about study skills. And then the other course is disability, race, and ethnicity. And so our disability coordinators at our Center for Students with Disabilities, they teach those classes. And the students can get comfortable with our disability services as well as our campus resources. And we kind of help them guide through that transition, because it is hard going from high school where you have all the support to going to college and kind of weeding your way through not so much support as you did. So yeah, we strongly encourage, if students are interested, to look into our summer transition program. It's been really helpful for a lot of students, especially on the autism spectrum. We've had a lot. So
I think I want to jump back over to Sarah in case you had anything else that you wanted to add concerning UWM.
Yeah, in regards to the whole transition piece, we don't have any other additional programs other, like Melanie mentioned, we'll offer to meet with students, but they have to take part in that. I do know that all first-year students at UWM are assigned a peer mentor. So they're assigned like a student mentor that they're matched with, and they meet them during like the orientations, which again, this year were virtual, but they still did kind of like little breakout sessions with those peer mentors. And then those peer mentors follow up with those students throughout, especially the first semester, first couple of weeks. And then those students have another student that they can talk to. And maybe they're more comfortable going to a student to ask some questions. And then another big thing I think are whoever that student's academic advisor is, because they kind of know all of the resources on campus. They might not be an expert in an area, but they can definitely make a connection. I have a lot of advisors who refer students to our office or who will do that, walk someone down and get an introduction. So I think an advisor can be a key person, and then if there's any kind of peer mentoring program that a campus offers, that can be a good fit for a student. And then through our Student Success Center, there's also, and again, in the world of where we are right now, everything's kind of virtual, which I think is lacking for some students who have a harder time with the virtual piece. They have different skills training, academic skills, time management, organization, and they can do one-on-one meetings with students on a regular basis for that, which I think that's another tool for students to use. That's just and it's free part of the tuition.
Okay, thank you. I I think part of what we're looking at here is there's definitely in my day job I'm seeing an increased need for support at the post-secondary level, and while not all represented here, there's a very good diversity of programming in Wisconsin and around the country, probably more than there ever has been, at least pre-COVID disruption for students with disabilities. And one of the things I'm pleased to have tonight is for the first time, we have Ashley from UW Oshkosh and Project Success. So I'm not sure if any of this present discussion dovetails really well into what we've been talking about, but I suspect it might. So
Yeah,
Ashley, would you like to go next?
sure. Yeah, so I'm Ashley Lewandowski. I'm the student support specialist at Project Success. So UW Oshkosh, we now have two Oshkosh campus, and then we also have Fox Cities campus and Fond du Lac campus, similar to what UWM did. So those are our 2-year access campuses. So what makes Project Success really unique is we're one of few programs in the nation that is both a remedial-based program and a tutorial-based program, specifically for students who have language-based learning disabilities. So dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and ADHD is our primary focus. So we're actually separate than our accessibility center. So our accessibility center is on campus for all other disabilities. However, we do work hand in hand because one of the biggest things in our program is what we call organizational tutoring. And so this is going to kind of help you, Paula, too. So our program started out in 1979 with 6 students, and we now have about 250 students. We get students from all over the nation. So Florida, the Midwest, California, to come for this program. So all these services that I'm going to talk about is all free of charge. So we are fortunate that the university supports and funds us, that we can provide all of these additional support services without having to charge anything extra for tuition. So we do, similar to Whitewater, we do have a 6-week transition summer program, which entails 6 credits as well. So 3 of the credits is a art history course, so it goes towards their general ed course so that they can kind of get used to the professor on campus and what their expectations are. And then we also have the other 3 credits, which is 3 components that are taught by our staff in our office, which is a transition to college. So we go through study skills, test taking strategies, note taking skills, how do you disclose your disability to a professor, and the biggest thing is the self-advocacy component. And then we have a reading-based component. So our biggest philosophy is multisensory instruction. So we're working on students' reading comprehension and by encoding and decoding. And then we have a writing-based course. So they'll learn how to write a college-level research paper, starting at the basics. So throughout the 6-week summer program, they're learning how to do research, what professors are looking for in regards to college-level writing, and knowing all of our resources. And then they're hooked up with what we call an OT, which is an organizational tutor. So whether a student comes through our summer program or starting in the fall semester, they are hooked up with a full-time staff member and they get a credit for it. And they're required to meet with the full-time staff member once a week. And in those meetings, we go through anything individualized. So grade checks, we'll make sure that they're doing well in their classes. We'll get them tutors if they need it. We'll help them do time management. We'll do to-do lists. We'll make sure that they are on track, that I'll have the copy of their syllabi, they'll have a copy of their syllabi, so that we can kind of work on those advocacy skills, because our mission is that we teach them the skills their first 2 years to become academically independent, where they won't need us as much. So that OT, they build that relationship with, and that's their go-to for as long as they're there. So they are required their first semester. Most students will do it their first full year, and then we get a good portion that does it their second year as well. You can take it for credit up to 2 times, and then the other times you can just meet without taking it for credit as well. We do have a reading and math specialist on hand through our program, and you can take remedial-based courses. And what I mean by remedial-based courses, you can take a reading-based course that will help you in your writing courses, or you can then work with our math specialists and take remedial math courses to help you with your college level math classes. And if you don't want to take any of the courses, you don't have to. You can meet with them individually as well. We do have a writing and math lab that is open at night for students that can stop on by, and that's just a tutor that we hire through our program to help in those areas as well. And then we also do the Woodcock-Johnson testing for free. So for any student that wants to, become a teacher or nursing, for example, and they need to take boards tests, they can get updated testing through our program without having to pay or go see a psychiatrist, because we have a doctor on hand in our program. And then we also have a capstone course. So we transition students out of the university. So we transition them in with the summer program and then transition them out with a capstone course where we do job searches, mock interviews, how to disclose your disability in the workforce, what are your rights, and so forth. So that's kind of our program in a nutshell. And then all of our students do get accommodations through our program, and they'll take their exams in our office and receive all the ADA accommodations as well. We do work hand in hand with the Accessibility Center in regards to our support services. So although this is what we see a lot, we have some students that are on the spectrum, and so they're through the Accessibility Center for their accommodations, but then they'll be hooked up with an OT, because we realize that students with autism need a lot of that one-on-one organizational support. So then they'll take our course and work with us throughout, and they can take that as many times as they want as well. And that's about us in a nutshell. I know I threw a lot of information, but the summer program too is for students that may not have a high GPA. They can take our 6-week summer program and be admitted fully into the university. But then majority of our students in our summer program are what we consider fully admitted, meaning that they don't have to take the summer program, they just choose to get ahead. We also have priority registration through our program, so students get to enroll at the top of their class. And then since our OTs or organizational tutors are not advisors, they can recommend different professors that work better with their learning styles and the different types of classes and credits, so that they're not, taking too high of a credit load, or professors that don't work well with their learning style. So we really watch that, because we know that makes a huge difference. Yeah.
We had someone in the audience asking what university is Project Success at. That would be UW Oshkosh. Thank you, Ashley. I know I learned a lot in those couple minutes, including the fact that there's an alternate acronym for OT. It's not just an occupational therapist anymore.
Yeah,
So, now, Ashley, do I understand you correctly? Someone comes into Project Success and in the university in Oshkosh, does all their schooling, and then the capstone to bring it to a close, the capstone course. At the conclusion of the capstone, do they have a traditional bachelor's degree then?
yeah, so they're going for their regular bachelor's degree route, but we also serve, all of our supports are for the Access campus as well. So any 2-year, that's the 2-year universities, they can also receive our support, but the capstone, that's just, it's a course that they can take once they're a senior. They don't necessarily have to, but most of our students do, but it's not a requirement. They're going through the same kind of plan as every other student. It's just that's another offer, a course that we offer for additional assistance.
Okay, thank you. At this time, it does not appear that we have any additional questions or comments from the audience. I do like knowing that part of the conclusion is, letting someone know what their rights are, perhaps in
Yep.
terms of disability and employment or other equal access things, because we did have it brought up before that, perhaps if things at the with the transition to college or with school were a struggle, that the person could contact disability rights. I think that would be primarily in the area of accommodations not being provided or plans not being followed under the law, but those things are out there, and it's good for our young people with disabilities to know those things at a young age and know how to use them when some of the security blankets of either high school or college are going to be removed.
Certainly, yep.
It looks like a moment ago we had someone raising their hand that may have been an accident. If there are any other questions, type them in the chat if you could. We have some time left. I'm going to circle back to Marissa, who I don't think said all that she could about UW-Whitewater. So I'm going to give you the floor once again.
Thanks. I don't know if I introduced myself, but I am Marissa Rehor. I am the Transition Outreach Specialist at Whitewater. So Whitewater, like UWM, is a 4-year college, and we also have a 2-year college in Janesville, Wisconsin, which is our Rock campus. We have around 11,000 students at our main campus in Whitewater and about 1,000 students that attend our 2-year college in Janesville. So we're kind of like UWM, where our application process is online. You can call our office or come into our office if you do have questions about the application, and someone can help you through it. As far as accommodations, we offer alternative testing, note-taking, assistive technology, and we also have fee-based services. So one of our fee-based services is called Project Assist. So this is a one-on-one tutoring service. Sorry, it's been a long day. Tutoring service where we offer organizational tutoring, time management tutoring. And so your student will, or if you're the student, they will get paired up with either undergrad or graduate student who has taken the class. And then they could decide if they want to meet once a week, twice a week, whatever they prefer. Trying to think what else. We do serve students with all disabilities, so ADHD, learning disabilities, students who are on the autism spectrum. Like Sarah said, we have been getting a lot of students with temporary disabilities. And so that brings me into, we do have a transportation service called Warhawk Wheels, which is a service that will bring you to classes. And they also do off-campus rides, so going to the local Walmart or Walgreens. But yes, I've noticed we've gotten a lot of students with broken limbs lately, which has been very interesting. So yeah, I think that's Whitewater in a nutshell. Anyone have any questions?
We we do have someone asking if we can post or email the contact information for our representatives or program names and locations, and we can certainly do that. So if you individually could type them in the chat box or to the questioner, I have the all of the contact information that you would need, and I can email you as well. But also with the time we have left, we have quite a bit actually if we need. So are there any other questions? Anyone in the audience wanting to unmute themselves and chime in? We'll give folks a minute to type, but I guess I'll ask a general question, maybe quickly from each of you. How right now, as we stand, several months in and at the start of another semester, how has COVID impacted things on your campuses as far as student success, provision of supports, etc.?
I can start. Probably the biggest impact has been that there are a lot more online offerings, so which works really well for many students, but can be more challenging for other students, especially students that may struggle more with organization, communication, because they're not having that face-to-face with instructors. Some students may be more hesitant to ask questions if they don't have that face time. So that's probably been the biggest challenge that I've found. There, unfortunately, too, I think just not having those social opportunities has been challenging as well, even though we're still providing all of our services, whether in person or remotely, and actually having a lot more remote options for academic supports and things like that have made it a little easier for many students to access them that maybe have challenges with transportation or just their schedules. So having those remote options have been helpful, but I think that there is definitely a piece that's missing as far as the social goes, because there aren't as many activities and clubs that are running remotely that there would be in person.
Yep, that's exactly what we're facing too, Melanie. That's one of the biggest issues, is that social aspect. At UW Oshkosh, the students were given the opportunity to take their courses either online or in person. So that's been pretty interesting as far as the professor has to. So they've broken up the class. So like if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, half the class will go on Monday if they choose to be in person. The other half that want to be in person will go on Wednesday. And then Friday is like their free day. So it's been really like hard with some of our students in regards to like structure, because they're like, okay, I'm Monday, I'm here, and then Wednesday I'm not be, and then yeah, it's been kind of hard in that sense. So the professors have to both teach it online and in person. So just the kind of lack of resources we've been noticing for mostly for some of the professors that are very tech savvy. They, like, for example, this happened twice this week, is the professor just put their like recorder like on a chair and then didn't turn, so the students just saw the chair the whole day, and then they're like yelling through the thing saying we can't see, just different things like that. So it's been kind of an interesting experience. As far as our support services, we're all virtual because our program is super small, that we can only have a capacity of 6 students in our like location at once. So we've been doing all of our support services online with the share screen option and different things like that, and the calendar and whatnot. And so that's been a challenge, but yeah, we've been making use of our resources, that's for sure. And we did our summer program online as well, our transition program. So we kind of had a head start on that, and so did most of the students on what to expect upcoming in the fall. So I think that helped tremendously just to get used to everything.
Yeah, at UWM, majority of the classes went online. There are very few in person. I think a lot of those are upper level or like classes that have a lab attached to them that they need to do an in-person focus. And then there's hybrid options. So like half the class attends one day and half attends the next day. And that I think is what's been confusing, because hybrid, it's almost like every instructor got to pick how that meant. And
Yeah.
we asked for like clear guidance on what that would mean, but people kind of did what they wanted to do. And the same thing, I'm meeting with students who have a challenge with, it's an asynchronous class. There's no dedicated time for that class. How do they structure their day around that? So it's about talking about, okay, build it into a schedule, and this is the time that you work on this class, you do the homework, and that's your set schedule, to kind of stay on track with it, because if there's no meeting times, it's really easy to forget about that class and checking in. I would say there's some positives, and it has forced a lot of instructors who maybe weren't so tech savvy to come up with different solutions. So we have people recording things and captioning them and putting them online, onto the course sites for students to access, because we've been kind of, the message that's been shared with our faculty is flexibility this semester. People are going to get sick. People are going to have family members that are sick. So we don't know what's going to happen. So it's been nice to see some of that flexibility already taking place and people adapting to things. It's also had its challenges because we have a pretty high deaf and hard of hearing population on our Milwaukee campus. So coordinating sign language interpreters for virtual classes and captioning, and the professor had it set up one way, and then 2 days later, oh, wait, I'm going to do now asynchronous. So just making sure that, when there's certain accommodation needs, the professor needs to kind of keep that in mind and realize that sometimes there's a time factor with that. So it's been a challenge, but I think people are learning a lot from it, and I think that's just going to help us in the future.
All right, so we have had a person, couple people jumping on and off or coming on late. So Sarah, while you have the floor, someone wanted to know, I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but does UW Milwaukee have anything similar, or what's the most similar thing to Project Success?
Yeah, UW Milwaukee does not have a program like Project Success. We just have our Accessibility Resource Center, and that's where students are coming for accommodations. If students do need like updated testing for documentation purposes, we do have our psychology clinic, which will do that, but there is a fee through there. So that's a separate thing from our office. So unfortunately, we don't have like another program like Project Assist at Whitewater, Project Success at Oshkosh. We just have our Accessibility Resource Center, and then we refer a lot to our Student Success Center for tutoring and other academic skills. Sometimes we'll work with that tutoring to sometimes, they'll limit tutoring sessions to once a week for students, but sometimes if a student's working with our office, we'll advocate for them to get, multiple sessions a week. And if it's approved through our office, the tutoring center will help kind of set that up more for a student who might need a little more structure.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder, about an hour or so after tonight's webinar, participants will be getting through GoToWebinar an email with a link to the recording, so you can catch up on anything you missed, share it with those not able to attend, and so we will have that available for you. Now, back to Marissa, I know you were going to answer regarding COVID.
Yeah, I was just gonna say all the schools kind of and all the points, but Whitewater, we've been experiencing a lot of students who have in-person classes who are immune compromised. So that's been one challenge at our Center for Students with Disabilities, is providing that accommodation. So we've been working with the professors, trying to be flexible, and helping out the students who aren't able to come on campus be able to have their classes remote. So but all the other schools kind of hit the same points that I was going to say.
Yeah, and I'll say as a Whitewater alum, I'm missing my speaking invitations to come down and talk to pre-service teachers on campus this semester, as well as a summer conference that we had, and certainly am going to miss the Whitewater Oshkosh football game that was to be happening in a couple of weeks. But I think the best timing has probably been for your sister who is home on maternity leave. So I know the proud auntie is joining us tonight, and that's why Sarah is here instead, because Brianna couldn't make it. But exciting times for all. And if you as college reps are experiencing these types of challenges with students on the college level, it makes me feel better in a way because my day job is talking to those in the K through 12 systems around Wisconsin having problems with either in-person learning or virtual education and IEPs and other supports at this time. So it has not been dull around the office, and I know it's not dull for any of you. Um, so we just have a couple of minutes left. I don't really have any other questions, but whether via chat or unmuting, those of you still on the call, if you want to ask or share anything else, now would be the time. All right, so we'll give it just a moment. And again, a reminder that when you get the email following the webinar, that contains the recording link as well as a SurveyMonkey link that we ask that you do complete for our data collection purposes at Facets. I also want to draw attention to our next upcoming self-advocacy webinar. We're going over to the employment side with a brand new training offering called Branding Yourself, and we're excited to have an employment professional on hand for that. So I'm not seeing any additional comments or questions from the audience, so I'm going to say thank you again to our panelists. Hopefully, by this time next year, most of you and all of your schools at least will be able to partake in our Wisconsin Facets physical office in Milwaukee. But we'll see where this thing heads. I sure am glad, though, that we do have all the online technology that we do, because I don't know how we would have done this when I came to campus back in the fall of '99, had a pandemic hit at that time. So our students are quite fortunate today, even though they may not see it that way. But so that's going to conclude our webinar for the evening. Thank you again to all of our college panelists for taking time out of your very busy schedules. And once again, thank you folks for joining us. And don't forget to check out additional workshops at wifacets.org.
Okay.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.